how can we actually build a frame that looks like this, opens, and we just have a little component here to deposit into Morpho. This could be any Coinbase Onchainkit component, like minting an NFT, depositing something, doing a swap, anything that literally is in Coinbase Onchainkit. But we will just focus on a simple Morpho frame where we can go through here in Webcast and just mint it. This will also work in Coinbase Wallet and whatever other Farcaster client you want to use. This is how it looks. It actually worked, as you can see. So the first thing you want to do is go to detect.vision and see the docs, literally, because we will learn how to develop an on-chain frame, because we can literally take any web app and convert it into a frame. So how we're going to do that is we're going to take it and convert it. So we will need some metadata that we'll need to give it, because that makes it a frame. And then we will just make sure to use the frame SDK to make sure it works. After we did that, we will just install a connector, make sure the wallet connection works, and we can use the wallet inside the frame. Cool. The earn component, what we saw to deposit, that actually comes from Coinbase's Onchainkit. It's this little widget right here, and we can get it as easily as this, which we'll do. So to get started, the first thing that we want to do is jump into our little terminal right here and make sure we create an Onchainkit project, right? So this was going to prompt you for your project name, and then you can press enter, and just go through here. I've already done that for you, so we don't need to run through that flow right here. So then you just cd into it, you get your little repository up, and the first thing we're going to do is install. So we're now installing dependencies, and we need to add 2 dependencies. We need to add the Farcaster Frame SDK and the Frame WAGMI connector. So we can either just install them in the terminal or add them into our little package.json and then install them, right? This is also mentioned if you go to the tutorials. This is also in here, right? To any website into a frame, we will get the dependency right here. Farcaster Frame SDK, and then the wallet, we get the Banat Farcaster Frame WAGMI connector. Cool. So what do we currently have? We currently have an app running. If we go run dev on port 3000, we have a little app running. So if we refresh this, it's now building, and we have our little app. This app literally just does nothing. This is just a web app. So what's happening here? There's some code I didn't remove. Sorry. We're coming back to that later. Okay. So now we have our little hello from Onchainkit, a detect.vision tutorial. You'll see something different. Coinbase has default components in here, which is cool. And then we have a little connect wallet, which, hey, works, right? Brings up Coinbase. And this is a web app. So if we inspect this literally just is HTML code. There's some meta text, some open graph, right? That's really cool. So what we want to do right now is turn this into a Farcaster frame. Well, first, how are we going to debug this? Well, we will use Webcast for debugging. So if you go to webcast.com and then there's the frames debugger, which you can also find there's on the detect page. If you scroll down, there's how to test and debug Farcaster frames. So it's in here, scrolling all the way down, you have the Webcast debugger, right? The link is right here, right? So we can click here, and it takes us to the debug. If we now run a Cloudflare, bring up a Cloudflare tunnel. So what we're now doing is Cloudflare tunnel -- our localhost 3000. We get a little URL back. That URL now points to our little deployment that we just did. We can paste this in here. And the top one is if you just want to run it in. If you want to do any kind of like production testing or see if it actually finally works and how it looks in feed, use the bottom one. But for testing, please just use the top one. This will not load your image or whatever you set here, but this literally just going to go through and show your little web page. If you have added the Frames SDK, which we did no work at all, we just brought up a web page, right? The only thing we did is, we have a web app. So how do we actually turn this into the frame that we saw right here, that we actually want to do? So going into our code, the first thing we do is add the frame manifest. So we're literally going to add back this. What is the frame manifest? The frame manifest literally tells the Farcaster client to treat the URL that you're sharing as a frame so you can bring up the actual application. Okay, what does that mean? That means when we look at how to turn a website, an app, into a Frames mini app on Farcaster, well, we have to provide the metadata about the app/website. Okay, so here's a little JSON. And in Next.js, because everything for the meta tags usually resides either on the route itself or in the layout.txs, we go in here and say, okay, we will create a new constant, call it frame manifest, and this is going to hold our little JSON, right? So now we have a little frame manifest right here. And we will point this to our open graph image, which you could have in your public directory or wherever. We are going to leave the title, that's fine, call it demo earn on Farcaster. And then a little morpho butterfly here because we're using morpho. The URL, we're actually changing to the Cloudflare URL. In production, you want this to be a live URL, right? So like earn.dtech.vision or earn.morpho.com or whatever, right? And then you also want to use your icon right here. You can all have this be in your like public folder. So if you have a public folder in here with images and all that regular Next.js stuff, then just put that URL in there, please. This is what the Farcaster client, like Webcast, is going to load. So if we're bringing this up and we're previewing this embed right here, this is literally coming from the code we're now placing in here. So that's why it's really important that you're doing this correctly and that you're placing this in here. And then we need to create the metadata. So we go other, we call that FC frame, and then we just need to put our JSON in here, and we're done. So this now renders already. This will not open, but this renders. So as we said, if we wanted to do some kind of testing on how it looks in the feed or whatever, we can do this right here, make sure that actually our Next.js app is compiling and building, and then we'll see, okay, this loads, right? We have our image right here, we can open this, it will have our icon right here, we have the colors, but it does not open it. Why? Well, let's go further. The tutorial then says to add a well-known.json. This is really important if you want your frame to be properly listed and you want people to be able to add it so you can send notifications. So this is really cool. We just go .wellknown/farcaster.json, and yeah, we can just do this. So if we have a public folder right here, we can create a .wellknown folder, call the file farcaster.json, and then we can go back over, take our little template, paste this in here. To get this account association, you have to take your phone out. So you're now taking your phone and going to the Webcast mobile app and going through that flow. It's all listed in the docs right here. So literally this is the navigation you do to get this. I currently do not care about the verifications. I just want to show you how it looks in a frame, but that's what you're doing there. And we will take over from our layout right here some of the metadata so that we just have it, and let's see. So what we want is the splash image is our icon now. The webhook URL we don't have yet. You could either use Nana right here or your own. This is if you want to send push notifications. So if you go to the dtech.vision webpage, there'll be tutorials on how to send notifications in frames and how to receive those and send notifications, make sure when the user is added, all of that. Go to the webpage. There's advanced tutorials on how to do this, but we will just take our title and call it this. So this kind of is your like App Store listing. You could see this as your App Store listing with you as the developer signing, okay, this is actually my frame, whereas this is the individual page. So if you want to customize for each user, then you wouldn't do this in the layout. You would go into the page and overwrite the metadata so that then another frame, for example, or like the custom user icon, the custom user image, their own image is shared, for example, right? If you want to personalize for showing somebody's PFP or some specific statistics. So now we have that in here. We now want to go and actually just open the page and see it. So what we need to do now is we now need to call the SDK's ready action. So luckily, because we did that first step, we don't need to do bun add Farcaster Frame SDK. We already have that. So what we're doing now is we're just using this little piece of code right here to do our little frame integration, right? So we go in here in our little component, And what this now does, if we just first actually add all the missing imports, then what this does is we're setting our context. The context is a really, really cool object because what the context gives us is user data. So we could go in our little frame here and show, let's actually do an H1. It's really cool. Let's do an H1 and say SDK dot, or context rather, dot user dot display name. And now we're getting the username. And we can just say hello, right? So what's happening now is that on our web app, because we're not checking this, on our little web app right here, if we go to see it, there's nothing happening. There's no hello, because the context isn't available. We're not in the frame. So if we wanted to check that, we would literally go and say, okay, context dot user, if it exists, then we would want to do this, right? And if it doesn't exist, we would say not in a frame or something, right? Like, could have this be in here. Why is there a passing error? Let me just check quickly. Why did it expect closing parentheses? This doesn't. Let's just fix this with AI real quick. What? What? What's happening? No, this is... because this is not a ternary operator. Okay. Cool. Got it. So now this is going to say we're not in a frame, right? So this means you now have a logic to decide, are you in a Farcaster frame or not? So you could render something else or not render the Farcaster related stuff, right? Since we don't actually care about this, we're just going to take it out again. But this is just something to note, right? And now that we have our little frame SDK in here, we're now telling the Farcaster client, yes, we are ready to be opened in a frame. So going here, loading this new page again, we can now see we're actually opened. We can connect the wallet and says, hello, DTech.vision. Why? Yes, because we're on the DTech account and our display name is DTech.vision. So this literally said, hello. It's really cool. So now we have also customized the frame for a user that quickly, and they already feel a little bit more at home, right? So that's what we just did. If we wanted to now actually get the Morpho thing in there, then what we have to do is we have to use Coinbase Onchainkit's earn component. So we already created this project, and to quick start, we can just import earn. So we can go here, import our little like earn component, okay. And then we can go back and also actually add the component to our page. So if we just do this, hello from Onchainkit, let's earn. And then if we go and actually check, okay, what's this doing? Because we're tunneled, this is live updating, and we can now see our little component, right? That's cool. You already have earn in there. But hey, the only thing that works is the external Coinbase wallet integration. There's no Farcaster frame wallet in here. So what currently isn't working is this little nice flow here, where we're going and having the little Webcast wallet pop up. So let's just create this. What we have to do for that is take the second tutorial, wallet connection in frames, and we're now going, and since we already added this, we don't have to install that dependency again, but otherwise you would have to. And we now need to include the frame WACMI connector. There's a little Coinbase Onchainkit specific thing that we have to do now, and that's that we have to set up our own provider. If you follow the WACMI setup guide, you're already familiar with this. So if you click Get Started and you do manual installation here, you will create a config, and then you will create the provider and use it and plug that config in, right? So this is what we're doing now. And we will do this with the Coinbase Onchainkit tutorial for custom providers. So the only thing we're doing is we're literally taking this code for the wagmi.ts, copying it out, going back to our code, and in our app directory, creating wagmi.ts. Cool. Paste this in. And now we can see that there's a Coinbase wallet connector. we only want the Farcaster frame. So we will say Farcaster frame, and then we will import it. So now we have this little import right here that says Farcaster frame, and this is going to work. If we want this to also work outside of a Farcaster frame, then we would go and say keep the Coinbase wallet in there, just add the Farcaster frame, and call it a day. And now we have both, right? Where is our problem right here? Farcaster frame, add the import, right? Perfect. So now we have our little import, we have the Farcaster frame, and we have Coinbase. And this is going to use Smart Wallet only, but you can configure this however you want. WAGMI connectors also has injected or MetaMask or Wallet Connect. I personally don't like Wallet Connect, but we don't need it anymore with Farcaster frames. But this is now our setup, so it works on a regular web page with Coinbase Smart Wallet, and it works inside the frame with the Farcaster frame connector. So, does this really work? Well, let's go back to our tutorial. We still need the provider. We still need to say to the app, oh shit, like please, actually here's the frames and all of it to use. So we're just going to add this to our little providers. This is already here. We're just overriding this with the code that's in the Coinbase wallet thing. Since it's Next.js, use client, please, thank you. We don't like you, Next.js. And then we're going to change the little import to our WAGMI to get the config. And we currently do not have this window thing, and we don't have a Coinbase API key, so we can just literally set this to undefined. Be a little naughty boys and set this to undefined. And our chain is already on base. That's cool, since the morpho frame is also on base. This is cool, this is cool. Yep, we don't need this. Great. So now we have our provider. Now everything is set up so that on our page, if we now go back over, and we're in the Farcaster frame, then this wallet connection right here would use the wallet, right? But there's one little trick I wanted to show you, and that's you can make sure that you're on the right chain. This sometimes happens where the Farcaster frame will just not connect to the right chain, or you just expect to be on Base and then you're on another chain, or you expect to be on Arbitrum, Polygon, whatever. So what you want to do is also copy over this little piece of code that's on the detect docs to just sit where the other Farcaster integration code sits. You're adding it. Let's just make sure we also have all of the imports and actually properly format this. And then what this does is we're checking the current chain ID. So we're seeing with WAGMI, okay, what is the current chain we're on? We're also giving us the option to switch that chain, and in case we're not on Base, then just switch to Base. Cool. There may be some bugs with the Farcaster SDK where this may or may not work for you. Then you would want to go into your package.json and literally just try out different versions of the Farcaster Frame SDK. Currently, as of today, actually 31 is the most current one, but we're using 6 here because that's the one that is in the Farcaster demo. I would literally try latest first, so please try latest first, but you may have to roll back a few versions in case this doesn't properly work for you. It should though. Most likely it's going to be fixed soon. So by the time you're watching this video, most likely this is not the case. And then what we now have is we now have a full-on example where we can earn in the morpho frame using the Farcaster wallet, and we can show the user, hey, this is really you. If you now want to let the user share this, you would create a button, and that button would then use the SDK actions. So here you have the SDK actions. This has adding the frame, opening a URL. And there's a few more in future versions, and there's more coming. But you can now have it open the URL, say like your web page, right? Or, and this is the really cool part, if you go to the docs, there's how to deep link into a frame or how to cast, right? And the cast one is really, really interesting because if we go to cast intent and just search it in the docs, webcast intents, right? Webcast intents are literally links where you can prompt somebody to post, right? So what then happens is you can literally go to the official docs and go to webcast intent URLs, and it's going to say, okay, compose text hello world. So if we're now adding this to our little frame right here, and we make the user open this hello world, then if they press this little link, it's going to compose hello world to them. If this were a button, right? So you can just turn this into a button, and then this SDK action is going to actually come up. So if we go back over into our little frame, there's going to be this little button that we can now make the user share. Add frame works a similar way. You just add frame and make sure you handle some defaults. There's going to be a add frame tutorial. This styling is obviously fucked up, but this is now a button, and as you can see, it's now composing a new cast. We have this hello world right here. We could add our frame URL, and then we can see it. So if you want to do that, you would just check quickly, oh, there's a little embeds right here that we can add, right? So if we wanted to embed a frame and take our little frame URL right in here, then let's say our frame URL is dtag.vision, right? Then we can do this. If we now go back to our little page and we share it again, it has this little embeds, and as you can see, right, the web page and the frame are coming up with our preview image. So this is how you actually build virality into your frame. This is generally how you can build a frame, how you can do wallet connection. We made the UI a little bit easy by using Coinbase's pre-filled components. We also use Next.js, though I'm personally not the greatest fan of Next.js. Well, most of you are going to use it, so here you go. Here's a Next.js tutorial on how to do it. The most important literally is this frame manifest, to have this everywhere. Make sure this is proper JSON. In case anything is not working with your frame, there's two things to check. One, you have to check that this manifest is right here and properly formatted, so double check this. Also, check that on your little page, like on the actual page that's loading or in the component or however you structure your code, make sure that you call the ready action. If you're not within Next.js or something, you can load this from a CDN. This code is right here. And if your manifest is somehow fucked up, here's the actual code on and like the details on how to fix it, how to generate it. And for the manifest, the image URL needs to be like returning less than 10 megabytes. Your title has to be smaller than 32 characters, right? Like those kind of things you need to take care of. And then you will have a proper frame. This is all listed on the docs. Hope you enjoyed this YouTube video. Have a good time.